Public Access TV, the final frontier. Join me and the good cyber ship inmendum.com in this desperate voyage through the dense space of human understanding to seek the grand promise of progress, to go to a truth that no TV show has gone to before. Yes, it's inmendum.com, the TV show. Yes, it's a really badly made TV show. And maybe it will give you a bad headache. But you are probably too curious to change the channel. So now, without further bad singing, it's inmendum.com, the TV show.
And so what we're basically talking about is you know, they're proposing legislation, and they have something in place now that basically prevents anybody from defeating any copyright protections. And so they're basically preventing people from you know, creating any options for an individual to do anything with the material they use, the material they may have bought or whatever that they've gotten in a legitimate way, and the you know, and then there's, you know, all these companies have their own unique takes on how they're going to exploit this circumstance and trying to control content. And I think, you know, we might disagree on this, but I think they have a corporate incentives are always running wild in the sense that they all want to own all of us.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay? They all have the same objective, which is to control the commerce. They want all the consumers dependent on them. And I think that's even how we ended up with iTunes in the first
every
place.
media company would like to create content. I won't deny that if that's written into the contract and they're bound by it, they're not saying, okay, this isn't the worst thing that could happen to us, though, because it does lock people into the iPod. But I think,
regardless of why or how, that's what they're doing. I mean,
but,
you know,
and they all do it. Okay, but let's say
I don't think anybody's disagreeing with that. They all do it, and their excuse is that the RIA and the MPAA, the Music and Movie Associations,
the Recording Industry Association of America and the Motion Picture Association.
Right. Yeah, you were sitting there complaining about things getting obtuse before we start throwing these acronyms out.
Well, that's why I explained it.
Thank you.
Right. Exactly.
You know, so like, well, who?
Yeah.
All right, you know, but to me, I'm thinking about this issue, and I'm saying, okay, they control the hardware and they control the content, and I don't even understand we got in this trap in the first place, where, you know,
they only control the content you buy from them. If you pull in your media from somewhere else and you put it on that device yourself, they have no control.
Right.
So if you have an iPod, you take your CD, you put it into iTunes, you then convert it to MP3s to put on your iPod.
Okay,
no DRM.
And I can still it's still going to communicate with my computer all right. So I can
Absolutely.
Still
and you can transfer it to other devices. But this is the thing. Basically, what you're paying for is when you buy music from iTunes or you buy it from Microsoft, you're paying for restrictions. You're paying them to give you music that you have very little you can do with it other than play it on your computer or play it on a very specific device that you bought. If that device dies, you won't be able to use your music anymore. If you want to purchase a new player, you have to purchase one that's compatible. It's got to be Microsoft compatible, or it's got to be another iPod because Apple won't let you transfer it to any other type of device because of this DRM, digital restrictions management technology.
And I don't really think it stops people who are really out to, you know, somebody who's trafficking in China in stolen copyright material. They're not going to be stopping that. They're not going to stop me from, like, you know, Sony. We're recording this on a Sony device, and when I use this Sony device, you know, to try to record content off a cable channel, all of a sudden it won't work.
That's probably Macrovision. That's right. That's perpetrated by your cable company.
And you're saying to yourself, well, you know, what sense does this make? Because if I turn my camera around and, you know, photograph my TV screen, okay, then I can capture the image.
Well, that's what's called the analog hole.
Exactly.
At some point, if this stuff is ever going to be consumed by people, it needs to be translated into an analog format.
It almost seems
your music is analog when it comes through your headphones. your video is analog when it comes through your television set.
The real enemies, the people who are going to market tons of pirated material, they're always going to be able to defeat this.
Yes.
Don't you think?
Exactly.
And every version of DRM
is the little individual who might want to get
this is
grandmother.
This is the whole monopoly business. They're not Microsoft and Apple are not doing it because they're doing it to create a monopoly. They're not doing it to prevent piracy.
But I think that they are bound by the RIAA and the other organizations to do it for that reason because they mistakenly think that will work.
Even if that wasn't true, Microsoft and Apple both have an incentive to have DRM.
That's true, but I don't think people would stand for it if it wasn't required. Okay, you know what? Maybe I'm giving some people too much credit.
Yeah.
If people knew better, they wouldn't stand for it, and most people don't know better.
And I think that's what we're trying to do today. We're trying to educate people on if they want to purchase a music player, they should avoid Apple, the iPod. They should avoid anything.
Well, again, you don't have to avoid the iPod or the Zune. What you have to do is avoid buying your music from the iTunes Music Store and avoid buying your music from the Zune Music Store.
Right.
Because there's nothing wrong with the iPod as a device. There's nothing wrong with the Zune as a device. You can put your music on there in any format, or not any format you like, but you can put MP3 music on there and listen to it and not be restricted in any way. But if you buy your music from their nice, convenient, shiny, glossy store, you will then be stuck using that device or that music store to listen to that music from that point on.
Yeah, well, that's
if you take your albums or your CDs rather, and you put them in your computer, you hook them to your device. Any of those devices are fine. I mean, it's a chunk of hardware, and you can do, not quite anything you want with it, but
they're both pretty flexible devices.